Guys, this is Charles from the channel Books on Stereo. I'm here to do another in conversation video with the amazing community founder Jess Owens. How are you doing today?
I'm so good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I was like, when I was thinking about discussing this topic, I was like, I need Jess. Like, she is all up in the book Twitterverse. She knows what's happening. She knows how to
Deep.
read these subtweets and understand them. And I'm like an old man going like, what are the kids yelling about on Twitter nowadays? Because like I walk in, I walk in like the room is on fire. I'm like,
Yes,
okay, close the
every
door.
day.
I'm gonna walk back out.
Yeah, the kids they are wild on the Twitter sphere, and I spend way too much time there. So
Hey, I appreciate you because you keep receipts. So I'm like, when it comes to your videos, you're like, see, Pop, I'm gonna read you the whole entire tweet. You can't hide
right.
from me.
I had to upgraded my phone to more storage. I got a lot of screenshots. Too many.
Oh my goodness, that's too funny. But before we get into the topic, I do want to add a quick disclaimer that the opinions shared in this video are me and Jess's alone. You are more than welcome to agree or more than welcome to disagree with us, but please handle it civilly. If there's something in the video that rubbed you the wrong way, please feel free to reach out to us and have a conversation through those means. I will have the comments open so you can leave a comment down there and we'll try to address those as well. But to each their own. This is only just a portion of the conversation. It's not going to be not a whole entire like all encompassing conversation about booktube culture on Twitter.
Oh,
I
sure.
kind of mixed my analogies there. So I just said booktube culture on Twitter. What is it called? Bookter?
Book Twitter?
Oh, it doesn't have a cool abbreviation like booktube.
No, it's just book Twitter. Yeah, but no,
Bookter?
no. It's just, yeah, I guess
I'm gonna
I
make it
guess
a thing.
Twitter's an outlier because there's book Twitter, but then there's Bookstagram, BookTube,
Graham.
Book Talk, but Twitter, book. No, see, it just don't
Twitter?
work.
Twook? Twook? I'm gonna stop because I'm gonna get canceled just by suggesting these horrible names.
They're like, no, we have one name. You cannot. Oh my god. Look.
So the first question I have for you is, how did you start getting into using Twitter, especially in the especially in the bookish sense? I was about to say booktube, the bookish sense.
Yeah, I've had Twitter for a while, and for the longest time, didn't understand the point of the platform. I was like, these little, what's the point of a tweet? And rarely used it. Honestly, I think I used to just like tweet at airlines when my flights were delayed. But once I got to like, United, where is my flight? Honestly, that's what I used to use it for. You know, sometimes it's how I got my information. But so I would say, so switching to Instagram, I found Bookstagram at the end of 2016. And then as I got more into that in like 2017, people were like, oh, well, follow me on Twitter. And so I followed people, but I will say it was not till like 2019 where I followed more than a handful of people. And I started realizing I could follow authors. And then, that just suggests other people. So it was really like 2019, I really started to have, my feed was a majority bookish content. And then I started to see just how messy it was.
Yeah, I have like a little bit of a similar story. I never really used Twitter. I had a lot of friends who were like, "Oh, are you on Twitter?" And to me, Twitter at the time was like back in like 2016. It was like Facebook, but only the statuses. And I
Yeah.
was horrible at writing like really witty statuses, and like Twitter's like that on a whole other level because you only have at that time I think like only 100 characters or something.
Yeah, super short.
And people like would just like drop these tweets. I'm like, I can't compete. What do I say to that? Do I just like it? Do I retweet? So I just had an account just to have one, and then I don't even know when I started using for BookTube. I think it's just when I started getting more active. I wanted to be able to post my videos everywhere. So I was
Hmm.
like, okay, let me just post it. Like I don't really care about my Twitter following, like because that's just like I'll just post a video up and like it gets sent out to the ethers. But just more and more recently, I was like, oh, I gotta pay attention to what's going on Twitter because there's some stuff like that's where I feel like you get all the breaking news, what happens like with
Hmm.
authors or something that happens in the publishing world or just like in the world in general. So like that made
Yeah.
me kind of appreciate Twitter a little bit more, but I always use it with like a caveat. Almost like how Facebook, like people used to get the news from Facebook a
Oof.
lot,
Yeah.
and then that started to like just of everything that's happened, like you had to even take that with a grain of salt. So
Yes.
I would definitely say I use it more for promotional, but now just like being on the platform, I feel like I'm just kind of drawn in a little bit more to like some of the kind of like the things that are going on in the community. It's hard to ignore on Twitter because it
Yeah.
just happens so quickly.
And yeah, it's easy to get dragged in. It can be very addictive, especially when it's like a big topic and like everybody, and you're like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, let me see. But my mom always will talk about the news, and I'm like, yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Just like any kind of news, I feel like I get it all. I'm like, yeah, I saw it on Twitter this morning, and I woke up read my
Hmm.
newspaper, my Twitter feed. Um, but some things like, like I follow like Publishers Weekly or whatever, and some things are more credible, but sometimes I'm like, let me Google that. But I feel like some people may run with it.
Hmm.
They might just see one tweet and they're like, oh, it's fact. And some things I'm
Hmm.
like, is it though? Yeah, you got to be careful.
No, let's check that. Let's check that.
Yeah, I'm like, why is this person trending? Did they die? And I'm all, I swear it's always like, I'm like, not Betty White, but it's just like her birthday or something. And I'm like, y'all gotta stop scaring me.
That is so true. I remember all the fake scares that people had when Betty White was trending for no reason, and
Like
everyone
y'all
was
can
like,
do
"She dead?"
this. Yeah,
I'm like, "No, no, no, she's alive and well." I'm like, "Then why is she trending?"
exactly. We cannot be doing this, y'all. Gotta love it.
So, so I think that leads to a very good question: is what are some of the pros and cons of bookter? I'm gonna call it bookter. I'm gonna make it a thing. Hashtag bookter. Let me know down in the comment section down below if you like that term. We're going to make it work.
Not booked her. Pros and cons. So I feel like pros, it's it's almost set up like a conversation. I say almost because sometimes people can have a decent conversation, but sometimes you can't express all of that in
Mm-hmm.
tweets. And sometimes it's just, especially if there's like a thread, it's sometimes easier just to get information like that. People can like list out things and you're like, oh, okay, whole thread. Oh, you just told me, you're telling me a
Mm-hmm.
story.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say, are those the only pros? But and just multiple topics, even from not a bookish standpoint, because I follow different facets of my life, mostly books, but other
Mm-hmm.
things. I can have it all like in one platform that I enjoy more than Instagram. But
Mm-hmm.
so like we were saying, like like breaking worldwide news, all those things like in one place. And so it's also interesting to see like when some other like community that I follow crosses over with the book world. Sometimes like some people I've seen
Mm-hmm.
that have nothing to do with the bookish world are like talking about the Shadow and Bone adaptation. So I think that's funny. And then sometimes, I mean, literally just so much information at the end of the day. That's a pro and a con,
Mm-hmm.
honestly. Because stuff like, especially that comes out about authors usually is on there. Like
Mm-hmm.
people will tweet experience or whatever, but cons, same thing is there's so much, there's always something happening. Um, Things can be taken out of context or taken the wrong way because you have such limited characters and ways to talk about stuff. And
Characters.
so, yeah. And then when I said it's almost like a conversation, but then it really isn't, because sometimes people try to go back and forth, and then somebody was like, no, I was being sarcastic, and
Mm-hmm.
this person gets mad, or, so it get kind of, you can't really have a proper conversation there. So it's really, it
Mm-hmm.
could be dicey. And then of course there's like the Twitter dog pile. So you can become, I was watching Lindsay Ellis's video. I don't know if you did, but she was talking about the Twitter villain of the day. You could become that person, or if someone's
Oh
calling
yeah.
people out, then people start quote tweeting and start, I can't imagine those people's mentions. So
Mm-hmm.
like,
Just.
I usually I'm just over here like, ooh, uh-oh, bookmark tweet. Come back to that. So yeah, there's definitely pros, and I guess this is a con, but for me, it becomes addictive where I'm just, and people call it doom scrolling, where I'm just like, refresh, and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
when
Just
the
constantly. You're just
yeah,
constantly.
like when the attack on the Capitol was happening, I was like, I can't look away. Oh my God, where's the update? So yeah, that sometimes I'm like, go
Where's.
to bed, go to bed, Jessica, put your phone down. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot.
Oh, wow. I feel like we're on the same page. Like, I think Twitter is a really great informal space where it kind of breaks the normal, like, gatekeeper type of media where you can only get news sources at a very limited pace. Like, you
Hmm.
have CNN, like, live tweeting, or you can have a civilian that has played in so much more cases nowadays with, like, just breaking news or anything like that, or even in book news. Someone hears
Hmm.
something, they can post it right away. They can book journalists or anything like that. It
Yeah.
allows us as users to get directly access information to the source as
So
quickly as possible.
hmm.
But I think that's also a con because Twitter is not the best place to be like factually correct. Not all the
Yeah.
time, but just like with characters and limitations, like which you can get like in a full blown article or a full blown video. You don't get like all this like here's the source that I got from this. This source points to this. So it's like sometimes you have to take it with a grain of salt, but
Yeah.
it's good to give you that initial kind of like jump with
Yeah.
information. Yeah.
That should like be your springboard to be like, oh, and let me go
Mm-hmm.
look into it further. I think they started this new thing where like if you go to retweet an article, they're like, do you want to read the article first? And you
Yeah.
can be like,
Mm-hmm.
yes or no. Yeah, I totally agree with that. I had a thought and it left my mind. But I feel like,
Yeah.
yeah, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Wow, love that for me. Um,
It's
I
okay. It'll come
forgot.
back to you.
Yeah. Or is it? I think also here's what I was gonna say is that the Twitter characters got longer so you can say more. And even if someone like includes they're like TLDR version, but here's the link, I think stuff like Twitter and has kind of shortened our attention span. So people don't want to read the full thing. So they're like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'll just go off the tweet and maybe
Mm-hmm.
that person was just trying to summarize in their way and you might have misinterpreted something or they
Mm-hmm.
missed something. And I mean, I've done that where I'm like, I'm like, oh, this article, I need bullet points. I'm not trying to read this full
Mm-hmm.
scholarly article. And then I'm like, okay, don't be lazy. You read books. So I think that's kind of,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, a con from Twitter too, because we're just like, we just want quick little things,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it. When sometimes
Mm-hmm.
other things you need to read way more information about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what's interesting about like I'm going like putting on my like academic-y hat now. It's like with Twitter, it allows you so much access to different people just by simply just adding them.
Hmm.
And like maybe a couple of years ago, I didn't realize that I was like I included like a celebrity and I added them in my tweet and I said something like mildly negative. I disagree with one of their views because I was just like I'm gonna be super political today, and that person responded, and I was like, oh my goodness, like it did not occur to me that that person would actually like see it and actually do anything with it. I felt like I was only in my own echo chamber.
Yeah.
I don't even know why I added them, but I think sometimes in Twitter you can kind of forget that there's an actual living person on the other side when
Mhm.
you send stuff or you add someone or you subtweet. And just with like just the way Twitter is constructed, like we said, you lose a lot of context because you're only going by a certain amount of text, and then Twitter is so quick, so it can give you great information, but also gives you kind of great or misleading hot takes on
Yeah.
certain events, and it's
Mhm.
very easy to make a quick judgment, and then the needle from like where everyone lands on that issue, it can go back and forth like
Yep.
constantly because someone
Yeah.
just puts a tweet saying, "Hey, I'll bring up like Carve the Mark is like a really great example. Everyone was saying this book had like all these problematic elements,
Oh,
and
yeah.
everyone kind of jumped on it based on, I think it was like only on one review. I could be wrong, so don't quote me on this. But everyone saw that one review, pan the book, pan the author, and then you had the booktubers who actually read the book and are like, it's not really there. There's like
Yeah.
one line or something that could be misconstrued, but if you read the whole entire book, it doesn't really lead up to that. And that was like one of the big instances where I kind of felt like you have to be very careful how you trust the information you receive on Twitter, and that
Mhm.
you do, like you said, you have to use it as a jumping off point to say, let me go look at what other accounts are saying, let me look at what someone else is saying, and then kind of piece together the story in your own way. I think that's
Yeah.
where you do a really great job in your community videos. Like you piece together the story. You don't just say like, okay, here's this one tweet, boom,
Yeah.
that's the
It could be
story.
easy because there's so many, but I'm like, going off one thing, or even when you said with like how quick Twitter is, sometimes like you might see something and then you
Hmm.
refresh, you kind of look for it. And so, not to say people, I'm sure people do this, but maybe you're like, I know I saw something about something and tweeting. So that could be
Hmm.
dangerous. And like that, I don't know if you were like active on Twitter last year when Deadly Education was coming out by Naomi Novik.
No.
So
Mm-mm.
that was getting really hyped. I was really excited about it because it was pitched as like an adult, it was like magic school, supposed to be really dark
Hmm.
book or whatever. And then early reviews were coming out saying like it was racist and there were all these like negative stereotypes
Mm-hmm.
in it. And I mean, I did have problems with the book, but that was one of the things where I was like, well, there was just like one line or something. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, this is what I've heard
Hmm.
and let me read it. And I did have issues with it, but yeah, I remember Carve the
It's.
Mark, like hearing all that and
Hmm.
then hearing nothing about it. And I feel like I've never heard
Yeah.
anything else about it. So that can be dangerous, I guess.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think too, with like Twitter, since it moves so quickly, I think let's say like if you're like on like a beef or something happens and you're on the receiving end, like the backlash is very, very swift with Twitter.
Mhm.
I mean, if someone at you and like says like this person did so and so or this book has XYZ, and people catch it and see it, it's like all of a sudden, like 20 tweets later, it hits trending. People are all
Yep.
hearing about it, and then everyone's covering it on the Twitter feeds, and then it just like catches off like that,
I couldn't imagine.
and I just feel like there's like almost like this culture of accountability that in and of itself, I will say it's great to be able to call people out, empower, or call out problematic things,
Mhm.
um, and really be able to make some changes, especially like holding authors accountable or creators or whatever you want to like define in the community. But sometimes, just like with Twitter specifically, sometimes I respect the aim of the whole system, but sometimes I do feel like it can fall into some pitfalls.
Yeah.
If that makes any sense. Sometimes because sometimes you have good cases where it does lead to positive change, but in
Yeah.
some cases you just have someone just calling out someone else and then stirring up the pot and then just going like, okay, that's it. If that makes any
Oh,
sense.
yeah. No, yeah, I understand because I've been thinking of this too hard. It's kind of hard to like put into words, because just like you said, like there are
Mm-hmm.
positive things, especially when
Mm-hmm.
certain information about people come out, and it's an easy way to spread information. And
Mm-hmm.
but I, knock on wood here, haven't been the Twitter villain of the day. I hope I'm not. I mean, I'm human. I might make
Mm-hmm.
a mistake. I can't imagine like logging on to
Mm-hmm.
Twitter and being that person. Like I have been like, oh, of course you deleted your Twitter, but I feel like that'd probably be your first instinct. You'd be like, oh my God, no, gotta go. But
Let me
yeah,
get up. Let me hop off this platform
yeah,
real quick.
I cannot. I have yeah, I feel like there's like a delicate balance that is easily tipped over on Twitter. It goes from like this person called it out and some people are like retweeting or bringing awareness to it, and then it like tips over to the let's all dogpile on this person and keep
Mm-hmm.
retweeting and mentioning. Not like, and
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to say like they don't deserve it, because I'm going to use Emily Duncan as an example since that was recent.
Yeah.
I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the mess in them books, not good. But I know that it must have been a lot,
Mm-hmm.
all of that, because I mean, it was every quote tweet, every
Yeah.
mention. So yeah, I don't know, like
Mm-hmm.
what's the,
Subtweet and everything.
yes, like
Mm-hmm.
some people were just direct. They were like quote tweeting her or their, I think it's their, sorry, their apology. And I was like, oh
Yeah.
dear. Um, but yeah, it's like not trying to take the side of people
Mm-hmm.
who've done wrong, but there's just like, where is the point where it becomes not helpful anymore? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it just reminds me of like how you used to handle beef in the olden days before you had social media. I'm like you just like went to talk to that person, like, and like if it's like a friend or someone that you know or something like that. I get it's a little bit different, like translating it onto Twitter and you're adding someone that you don't really know, but like I'm always of the opinion to like try to handle it like privately at least before going
Mm-hmm.
public, because I know how I feel like that's why a lot of times when you see someone on the receiving end and they are lob of all these tweets and all these things, the immediate response is sometimes to become very defensive and
Mm-hmm.
to be combative, which only
Yes.
makes it worse.
Yeah.
But because Twitter moves so swiftly, that backlash you feel it immediately, and you're like, I feel like the whole world is
Yeah.
just
So
like
they're
coming
probably
at me
like,
right now. You're just
God,
like,
yeah. And of
and so
course,
like,
when
yeah,
they
I do believe
react
that.
like that, you're like, "Ugh,
Mm-hmm.
that's not the way to react." And it's just so it's very hard. But yeah, it moves
It's
so
hard.
fast and so many
Mm-hmm.
people are coming at you. But I bring up Lindsay Ellis again. I don't know if you know who that is, but she,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, big YouTuber. So she made a video last week because she was a Twitter villain of the day a couple weeks ago with a tweet. And I watched the video and I thought she was making great points. She was kind of saying what we're saying about Twitter. Like there's like that delicate balance, but then there's sometimes where it just becomes too much and people are piling on. And because she was saying in her case,
Mm-hmm.
same thing, like she woke up, saw these, mentions, immediately got defensive. She was like, which is not a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
That I tweeted something dumb again.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I just that's why most of the time I'm like, my tweets are in my drafts. Or I'm like, you can't read a lot into a tweet. It's just so, yeah, it's hard. Things
Mm-hmm.
like I feel like are better, or like when Simon and Schuster, this whole thing that happened recently, I feel like that was something better because
Mm-hmm.
they pretended like, oh no, my goodness, we just found out we're distributing this book.
We're not.
Oh no. Yeah. And so I think stuff like that is really helpful, against these big
Mm-hmm.
corporations and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets more
Mm-hmm.
complicated when it's a person, because I like don't want to say don't call people out or don't bring attention to stuff, but then it is, they are a person.
Mm-hmm.
They have feelings, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I don't know where the line is, or what's enough
Mm-hmm.
awareness, or it's hard. So that's why
Mm-hmm.
I don't reply. I'm just over here
Yeah.
like, oh no goodness.
Yeah, it's like you said, it's such a weird balance. Like I don't like when Twitter drama is like I don't like want to sympathize like let's say with like Lauren Hoff and like what she did, but I was like mentally like in that position I'll be like I would want to be so defensive like adding
Mhm.
like even though what she did was wrong,
Oof.
but sometimes like just like the way the accountability kind of meter works in Twitter, sometimes it can just go way over to the wrong side. And I feel
Mhm.
like more and more, especially with Twitter, honestly, you see bullying or threats or something getting so bad that a lot of people end up leaving Twitter. I feel like Twitter is
Yeah.
like one of the first platforms that people tend to leave over like Instagram or
Yes.
YouTube. Just because
People.
Instagram and YouTube are a lot slower for any drama to really catch
Mhm.
fire. Because like Instagram, you have to make a picture, you have to like make it look all nice, or you have to like film your story and do
Yeah.
captions or something like that. So it takes a lot longer
Twitter's
than
just
saying da da da
like
da on
this.
Twitter.
Yeah. The um Lauren Huff, what a mess. The why do I keep forgetting what I was gonna say with Lauren Huff? And also I never, I mean, even for the worst person, like threats are like I never understand people who take it that far. I'm like, come on, we don't need to be like physical, like threatening
Mhm.
physical harm or death to people. Chill out. Um, and stuff like that. And then the downside is, well, I mean, I guess they're all huge global platforms, but I feel like it just
Mhm.
gets seen by more people. Like Instagram
Mhm.
algorithm is way different than like if you made maybe a controversial
Yeah.
story or a post. It's less rare to go viral on Instagram versus
Viral.
a
Yeah.
post on Twitter. So I feel like then your
Mhm.
audience is even bigger when it's something that somebody catches the eye of and people start talking. I mean, I feel this much sympathy for Lorna. But I mean, I'm sure there were other things I didn't see, but she also, I was like, can you log off, please? Log off the app. Um, but yeah, I'm like,
I agree. I agree.
so that's why I'm like, there's no like perfect scenario on like how people should react. But in one, Lauren Huff is at the bottom of my pity list. I have
Mhm.
so ridiculous. But yeah, it's just like I in Lindsay Ellis's video, I feel like I keep saying this, but she was saying how Twitter basically is designed this way to like, you know, you say one thing, like the
Mhm.
goal really is to get a viral tweet or to how their algorithm works to try to boost
Mhm.
something. And I think she was also talking about
Mhm.
how some things are in good faith. So someone's like, hey, this is a bad take or problematic,
Mhm.
or retweeting an article or something about someone, you're like, oh wow, I didn't know that. Thank you for sharing. And then other things, someone could be in bad faith just looking into something and maybe being like, oh, I know this person didn't with quote tweet, and maybe it's
Something to
like,
post.
yeah, and you're like,
Mhm.
so they can get like that clout or you know all those retweets. I mean, I've never had a viral tweet. I'm
Mhm.
sure it feels amazing to see all those people if it's positive, like retweeting your tweet
Yeah.
and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
If it's negative, it's like you're like
Yeah,
I'm gonna
no, only
message you
if
on
it's
Instagram being like,
positive.
Jess, I don't think
Uh,
you should go on Twitter today.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. But what I've learned in my short community career is that intent does not equal impact. So, and that's fair
Mhm.
if you tweeted something and you were like, genuinely didn't mean it that way,
Mhm.
but someone takes it that way, you know, and you got to own up to that. The problem is, though, once it gets the attention of so many people, and you're
Mhm.
like, but I didn't, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It kind of makes it hard
Mhm.
to apologize, I guess. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's a good kind of branching off point because I was gonna talk about apologies. And I think in your video you did a really great job of like you had to state what you're actually apologizing for.
Yeah.
But I can like see from like the like almost like being like the politics like being like politically correct almost. Like you see with a lot of apologies, they kind of like say we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and it's very
Mhm.
blanket. It's not very specific what what they're apologizing for. And I think like just saw something on Twitter. I think it will obviously open up criticism, and I get that because it's not actually directing like what they're actually apologizing for. But I think almost I don't even know if this is true from like a legal perspective. It's like better to be like slightly big if you're like on a bigger platform.
Probably.
Like I
Yeah.
don't
I
don't
don't
know, like is
know.
it like for the whole Jay Kristoff thing, like I wouldn't have seen him like listing out everything because then like that's just like wholly like dismantling his almost his
Mhm.
whole career.
I
Like if
because
he
I feel
like
like that was
apologizes for
very
all this stuff.
yeah. It's like I'm admitting this. I feel like that was very like someone PR agent wrote that. So I think
Hmm.
yeah, like I mean I don't know legally, but I feel like the bigger the person, especially if it's a brand or like a corporation, the statements are usually very business. They probably like had a legal like well
Hmm.
we can say this that we're
We
apologizing
can't
for
say
this,
that.
but yeah. Oh no, take that out. Do not take accountability for that. And
Hmm.
then they're like, yeah, we're gonna give you these vague things because then if we don't do a certain thing, we're like, well, it kind of falls under that umbrella.
Hmm.
I feel like there definitely has to be some kind of like
Hmm.
legal thing in there with certain people. I mean, smaller people sometimes just no, but definitely bigger. I remember like Sasha Alsberg, her
Hmm.
apology seemed really stale. So I think it definitely is like a corporate
Hmm.
company kind of thing that was like, here's what we can say and here's what we cannot say
Hmm. Hmm.
to and I mean most of the time
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt them, like people have short
Hmm.
attention
It doesn't.
spans and they're like, okay, I'm just gonna lay low.
Hmm.
And then pop back up and be like, surprise,
Everyone's like,
remember me?
remember that drama that happened with that one author?
You're like,
Like,
who?
oh wait, that only happened a month ago. Oh, she got a
Yeah.
new book. Like, oh okay, whatever.
Oh dang, it's a reading blog. I forgot. Like, and there's just so much, and everyone certain things bother certain people, like a lot of people were turned off by the Sasha Alsberg thing or Jay Kristoff. Some people are like, you do what you do, and it's you can't everyone makes their own choices. But yeah, the apology thing just cracks me up. Like,
Yeah.
that's what you came up with?
But it's like well, the one thing that I see on Twitter, it's so more like quick. Like even if someone like went through every single thing that they apologize, I feel like with Twitter and like the people that are already against the person, they're gonna be like, you apologize for this, this, and this, and this, and this, but where was the apology for like X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
LA, or something like way other. So like I feel like depending on where you are on like the scale of like are you really invested and you really don't like this person or like you really don't
Mhm.
care or you're in the middle, like apologies work on a different scale. Like for me, like Jake stuff, I'm not a huge fan of him, so it's just like I was never going to read his books anyway. So like you said your money. I'm like it wasn't a good apology though, but you
Yeah.
do you. I'm probably never going to read like your new vampire book, so like I'll hear people talk about it, but like, you do you. But I feel like, but yeah, like I feel like any side you're on, the apology is always gonna get scrutinized. And I feel like
Yeah.
Twitter's like the place where they like will take a screenshot and be like, okay, da da da, da or like break it down in like a 20 message long thread. And it's like
Yeah.
that's I think where Twitter is a little bit flawed. It's hard to have. It's built to be almost like conversational like in that
Mhm.
manner. But just the speed and the way it moves so quickly is that you can blink and you already missed the train on the conversation, or you could have said, like you said, you could have posted a tweet with perfectly good intentions, and then it
Mhm.
just goes out there and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa. So I almost think there's always like this, like almost like cycle in a way that when you participate in Twitter or like you're active in the community, at some point you will get burned a little bit. Like not like
Mhm.
on the whole, like it may not be like a huge level, but because we're humans, we're gonna make mistakes. You may
Yep.
say something and then like a tweet that you think was right for that time, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe they said this." I'm like, "What is happening?" And you're
Yeah.
like, "I didn't mean anything," and like it immediately can turn on you so quickly. That's the one thing that I'm so fascinated by Twitter, but also a little bit scared with Twitter in
Mhm.
that way. It's like
Yeah.
I know with YouTube and Instagram, I have some like it's gonna take a while for it to like really kind of take fire in that community. Even then, it's just a video, so I'm like, that's your opinion. Is I don't have to. You don't have to engage with it as much, like
Mhm.
versus Twitter, where like you will get comments or like retweets or people replying to your tweets, and you're like, it's way more. Like, because even
Yeah.
if you delete it, people find a way. They screenshot it, and then
Mm-hmm.
they're like,
It was
see, I
one
already got the
second.
receipt. So I'm like,
Yeah. And
that.
then with the conversation aspect of Twitter, which is fine if it's literally between you and the poster, but the problem is people can get in. And so then you have, depending on how many people see it,
Mm-hmm.
multiple people commenting. Because I know for myself, even reading threads, sometimes I'm like, wait, what? Because sometimes it doesn't like, even if you're like, so see more, it doesn't always like track in order. And you're like, hold up,
Yeah,
you're
you have to
to
kind of go through it.
yeah, or if somebody retweeted part of somebody's thread, so and then I go to
Mm-hmm.
that part, but then I scroll up and realize this is the 15th tweet in a thread, and I'm like, oh God, I gotta go all the way back up here and read. So that's easy to just like, maybe take that section out.
Mm-hmm.
Or yeah, when it's just too many people and you're like talking to this person inserts, and then somebody's asking you a question to clarify. And so yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the conversation easily gets muddled
That's it. Mm-hmm.
on Twitter. And I mean, but a positive, like you were mentioning with someone can take something in a screenshot, and like there's a lot of times where people do that, like break down long threads
Mm-hmm.
that I'm like, oh, like I'm learning a lot from this. But it's just
Mm-hmm.
important to make sure that it's not just a screenshot and then taken out of context. Because I think about the whole, do you remember the Sarah Dessen drama that happened?
Yes. Yeah, with the
Because
whole book
yeah,
club.
took
Mm-hmm.
a part of a conversation out of context, put it on Twitter, and was like, how dare you? When if she had the whole
Mm-hmm.
article or people saw the whole article, then they wouldn't have started attacking this girl. But all the authors
Mm-hmm.
just went off that one part, and I'm like, see,
Right.
nah, that's not what we're not going to do. um,
But like that's Twitter. Like
yeah,
you
it
can
is.
take something out of context and then intentionally not like really refer to anything else where it came from, and you can run with that and get pretty
Mm-hmm.
far before people go like, wait,
Yeah, because
where's this
somebody can
coming
jump
from?
in.
Let me search this up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's very because especially just like we keep saying it's so quick. I feel like you see something, you immediately are like, wait, this, and it can just start a conversation before maybe even the original person got to explain. They're like, wait, I just started one tweet. I got a whole thread. Hold on. So it's like,
You accidentally like already tweet like
yeah,
two tweets out of like a 10 out of a
yeah,
10 tweet
hold
thread, and
hold
you're
on.
like, oh dang.
Yeah.
A lot of
So
people.
yeah, the speed is dangerous. And yeah, we're all human. So at the end, even if you try to be perfect Twitter user or whatever, like certain things are just going to be taken out of context or could be just wrong. Maybe you just have a antiquated ideal or
Mhm,
something, or a bad take that is like, maybe let's look at this. And
mhm,
yeah, I just don't know how often those conversations are as like civil and nice, where the person's probably being more receptive to feedback
mhm,
instead of when it's like, oh no,
mhm,
quote tweet. But I
mhm.
mean, I can't lie and say I don't be sitting back and watching it. So I'm, I'm part of the Twitter culture, I guess, because I'm just sitting here. I'm like, bookmark tweet. My bookmarks are too
Hey,
full.
it's like good drama. You're just like, this is like, I don't need to
Yeah.
watch TV. I just like open up my Twitter and I'm like, the drama's popping right now.
I miss my reality TV, and then I go on Twitter. I'm like, I'm fine.
It's 24/7, like every single day. Twitter will always be there with this drama. I'm like, okay, what's drama's happening now? Like, and I think like to just reiterate, we definitely think Twitter is an amazing tool. Like we're not being like, I don't want people to think that we're pointing out like all these negatives or it's being framed in a very negative light. It's a great platform. We all use it. It's just like Goodreads. Every platform
Oh,
has its pros and its cons. Like you could say the same thing about Instagram,
oh,
YouTube. Any
mhm.
system that we use is going to have its benefits and it's going to have its cons. And just because you talk about the pros and the cons doesn't mean you necessarily like are like, we're gonna hate on Twitter now. But we're just saying
Yeah.
like a lot of the pros actually can be cons, and a lot of the cons can
Mhm.
actually be pros. I think it just
Depends on the
varies
day.
so widely. Hmm.
Yeah, it's so volatile, is that the right, or variable?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows I love Twitter, just like Courtney Milan. She's my Twitter bestie. She just doesn't know it yet. But because I see a lot of people, and I think you mentioned this earlier, are Twitter's kind of like the first social media app they'll like leave. I see so many people like, I'm leaving this hellscape or this hell app, this bird app. And I'm like, don't go. But yeah, I mean, yeah, I love Twitter. It's probably my favorite social media app. But I can see the issues with it and why people don't like to engage in it, just because of how quickly it can turn negative. And sometimes it feels like, I mean, they do call it doom scrolling. There can just be, seems like negative news after negative news, but then sometimes there's like this really cute clip of like a lamb or something. I'm like, oh, look at the little puppy lamb. Or some cute little video of some kid being sassy and adorable. And I'm like, oh, see, this vibe on Twitter. So yeah, you gotta take.
And then you have those tweets that like are so good, they're so snarky, and you're just like, oh yeah, that was really good. I like that take.
Yeah, it's just like
that was a good take. I was like that brought a smile to my face.
Yes, I'm in awe of those people. I'm like, how did you do that? That was just spot on. So jealous. I especially love when people are just like sassy about like politicians, but just like, I don't know, I'm not good at like that, a quick tweet that's just perfection and has 100,000 retweets, and I'm like, dang, that was good.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I love that part of Twitter also.
Yeah, that's a fun part. I would say I love the whole, I don't know, I like watching like people live tweet TV shows.
Yes.
I like talk about that, and then just like kind of scrolling and being like, see like, oh, what are people saying about this show I'm watching? I'm like, why isn't it trending? The show is amazing. I just, but then I get spoiled by Twitter a lot. I'm like, damn it.
That is, I got spoiled for a lot in WandaVision, because at first I wasn't gonna watch it, and then I did. But when Game of Thrones was on TV on Sundays, that was my thing. Like, I was on my phone, ready and watching, and I loved live tweeting. I just felt like I was watching the show with so many people on the tweets, especially Black Twitter. So great. Oh God, so good.
Black Twitter.
Iconic.
I love them. They're just
the spice, the seasoning. So good, but yeah,
that's true. I didn't realize that some things that were very specific to Black culture until like I saw it on Black Twitter. I'm like, oh yeah, my parents do like the Robitussin at me anytime I get sick, and we do use a lot of nature seasons, which I don't see a lot of other people.
Yeah, all of those things. You're like, y'all did that too. Y'all, like we all have this shared experience growing up. This is my heart. I love it. That's
like Black Twitter existed before Twitter. We just weren't cool enough to know about it.
Yeah. That's when like Twitter is at its best. I'm like, my people. Just certain things. I'm like, I love it. I love that the most. Like I woke up this morning or things I'm not even in tune to what's going on. Everybody's tweeting about the Oscars. I'm like, I didn't even realize that was going on. Let me see. And just from, I don't even have to find it. I can see who won. I just got to go through the tweet.
I was like, as soon as I saw the headlines, I was like, Chadwick Boseman was robbed. That's the only thing. Out of everything else, I was like, he should have won, right?
Yeah.
Put respect to my King T'Challa.
That's why I don't watch some things, those shows, because they're all, it's rarely, the awards are rarely given to the people who deserve them. So I'm like, child, please. But I'm like, I'll look at all your red carpet outfits. Y'all look cute. That's nice.
I just heard Zendaya pop up. I was like, who would have thought Zendaya from like her Disney Channel star days would like be like the glow up that she is right? I'm like, I'm so
Somebody
proud
was
of
like,
you.
why is Zendaya the only one wearing a mask? It was like, she's the only one with sense. It's like, oh. There's, dear Lord. But yeah, there's positive things about Twitter, and like, I'm like, because I don't want to, some things I don't want to watch or I don't want to keep up with, but Twitter will let me know. They'll tell me.
Mhm.
They'll keep me
That is
little.
true. They will tell you everything. Like there's
Yeah.
dedicated people out there who will
Yes.
like, I'm
It's
gonna
like
report
yes. It's
everything that's
like
happening at
live
the Oscars.
reporting. It's like that little. It's almost like that little ticker thing at the bottom of the screen, but people are just giving. I'm like, yes, thank you,
Hmm.
give me. And but you know, I mean, I've muted a lot of words. It does not seem to be working for Shadow and Bone because I'm like, y'all get off my timeline right now. But
Oh, you haven't watched it yet?
so I watched the first episode. I'm in this really weird mood where I'm just like annoyed. I don't know. I had a
Uh-huh.
plan to watch it, like just go ahead and watch all 8 episodes so I could
Hmm.
watch people's videos and talk about it. And then I just
Yeah.
got in the mood. I saw everybody and their mama on Twitter and on Instagram, and I'm like, ugh, I don't want to watch it. Everybody's watching it. And I was watching it and texting my friend. I'm like, ugh, I don't like this. I don't like this. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to step back because I'm in a mood. I want to enjoy it. So I'm just going to wait a little bit, maybe a week or two, collect myself because
Uh-huh.
that's not my Kaz Brecker, but I'm going to watch it. I heard Jesper's great. And I want to see Ben Barnes because that's
Yeah.
actually my baby daddy. So
Oh, oh, Jess, you're not ready for like with the Darkling and Alina. But I was like, when I haven't finished it yet, but I got far enough into it, I was like, I hope they explore that more.
Mhm.
Because I realized when watching the TV show, it made me realize like not to say anything bad about the books, but like the original trilogy definitely story wise is not nearly as good as the Six of Crows duology, in my opinion.
Yeah,
So adding those
same.
characters in was what made it really, really interesting because you're like, I would say there's like more surprises as you go through like how it's all connected. So I really like that. So it was like, I was like, how are they gonna do this? Like, cause
Yeah.
like Shadow and Bone takes place like before all those events take place
Like a
before
couple
Six of
years.
Crows. So like, why would they be so like? How would they be relevant in the Shadow and Bone verse? But like, they do it. I still don't 100% love it, but it's a really good start. I'm like thinking with my romance brain. I'm like, just call it like it is. But they do convince me that Mal and Alina are endgame.
That's what
I was
I keep
shocked by
hearing
that. Like,
and seeing because yeah, I read Six of Crows and Shadow and Bone. Definitely prefer the duology over the trilogy. But I mean I love Nikolai, so I can't wait to see him in the next season. I wish he was in the first one, but fine. But I keep seeing people talk about Mal and Alina, and I'm like, ugh, no, but I'm hearing that it's more convincing in the show, and I'm like upset about
yeah.
it because Mal, you know. But
No, it's
I when I
funny because
what
the
I
actor
saw,
even
it
said himself,
looks
he's like, everyone hates Mal.
great. He's beige, a wet napkin, and he was whiny in the book. I have seen on Twitter, speaking of Twitter, but in the first episode and a half that I watched, I did see like the whole like rice eater and like the added racism they added in, which just seemed really weird to me. Do you feel like
Yeah.
is it like a lot or is it like only just kind of in the first couple episodes?
There was actually someone I know on Twitter that like runs like works for a publisher or like runs like a whole art program for them, and I saw his tweets, and it is definitely prevalent that she's always reminded that she's half Jew throughout the
Mhm.
show. I would say maybe it dies down probably around episode 6 a little bit, but there's usually some type of like subtle like racist nod here and there. It's like if you don't realize that like people in Ravka don't like the shoe and they look down upon, it's very prevalent throughout the entire series. So like
Yeah.
I can see why some of the people in the Asian community may not like that. I can't speak to it.
Hmm.
Um but I am happy that we do get an Asian heroine. Like the changes that
Hmm.
they made from the book, I was like, I get it. The book came out at a very different time. Why it was a very different space,
Oh yes.
very different space. So like, I like all the changes that they made, but I'm not gonna like say like it was bad or good. But like, I hear what people in that community are saying, and I can see it.
Mhm.
It is. for like having a big show, like and have like this really powerful Asian character, and to see her go through so much of that with like some of the critique was that it had no point. It was just
Yeah.
there so she could experience racism. So like like you are looked down upon in this world.
Yeah.
But
That's why I
like
mean
it
I've only
depends.
watched the first episode and like a half. And I just feel like because obviously Alina is a white girl, but then Grisha, and that's kind of looked down. So it's like, I don't know. I haven't watched all of it, but it just feels unnecessary. Like it could have just it's like awesome that they casted somebody else, and that could have just been that. Like, just let her be great. But had what I saw was like half breed and ricey. I was like, did we have to do that? But yeah, I mean, I'm not in that community either, but I've seen some people in the Asian community talk about it on Twitter and others being like, but why? Because I'm like, in a fantasy world, we don't need that. We already got fantastical racism. We don't need the real stuff in here. But from what I've seen, it does look, visually great. It looks stunning. I know they had a big budget, so I'm just like waiting for my hateration inside to calm down. So
wait till you see what Ben Barnes says. He says a line. I don't know if you saw like memes of it. He says it like, "Call me your villain if you want to." And I was like, "Ho ho ho!" I was like, a romance writer, take this and make it a romance." Like
I'm ready.
Sorry, like canon now is gonna be a menage between the Darkling, Mal.
I'm sure someone is working on that fanfic right now. I would like a link to it, please. Oh my goodness. I am like, my friend and I have loved Ben Barnes for like years. And so we're like, oh, now all of you love Ben Barnes. We have loved him for a lifetime. So that's
we have loved him for many years.
Oh, you can appreciate him from afar, but she's already gonna be my sister wife. Okay, we've agreed. But yes, I need this fan fiction. Anybody watch it? Thank you, please.
Yes. Watch it and let me know if you don't have the same thoughts and opinions that I did. I was like, my romance brain isn't like kicked into high gear.
I need to see it. Well, I'm glad they did a better job, because that's the thing in the book. I'm like, what chemistry do they have? Like, I don't believe it at all for like Mal and Alina. And so yeah, that's good that they, and I've just heard great things about other characters. I see how they had almost all the crows, and I just want to know why they don't have Wylan, because I love Wylan, but maybe that gets explained. I don't know. Or maybe we'll see.
Spoiler? I didn't know about two of them. I thought I don't want to say them because I don't know if it's people who know them. It's like I can't even reference it. It's like the three that you see in the trailer. There's like others that pop up, and I did not know that they were going to be there. So like I thought that was a surprise. I don't know. Maybe I might finish it, and like maybe Wylan may show up too. But I really like how they're mixing it all together. I was like, I can see why Lee gave you the keys to like the whole like. I was like, this is like what like they need to do with the Shadowhunter series. Like give it to Netflix. Just like I feel like that's a much harder series to do because there's so many books. You need like 20 seasons to get through all.
Yeah, she just keeps adding to that. So many things are getting optioned now, so I'm excited. I hope they all get good budgets so they can be done well. Because it looks like they put some time and effort into this one, so I hope more things get optioned and get some big Netflix money.
Yeah. The one I'm excited for next before I wrap this up is Children of Blood and Bone. Because that's actually with Lucasfilms. I think with Star Wars. So like I know Disney's gonna pump money because like that could be a whole like with Black Panther they have. It could be a whole other franchise. And I'm like, I'm so excited. Like I just like that you're seeing books being taken more seriously. I don't know. I haven't heard anything. I know like there's been a director and everything attached, but I haven't heard any news. But I feel very confident like with her being at Disney. They're going to
money. That's Disney owns
They're gonna do
everybody.
something big with it.
Yes, will love to see it.
That's so true.
Although,
Like I yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say I was like I'm a whip for anything Marvel. Like I will when Black Widow comes out, of course I'm gonna pay the $30 because I just need to know what happens next. Like it's I feel like I've been watching a TV show for the last like 15 years. And I'm like I can't stop now.
I like Marvel things. I'm not as like a super fan, but I eventually get around to watching all of it. Like I haven't watched Falcon Winter Soldier. Is that what it's called?
Oh, I haven't either.
I'm like, okay, it's finished, so I'll watch it, and then Loki. But I have friends who are like up on it every day, like, oh my god, have you watched it? It's so good. I'm like, yeah, I'll get to it. But there's so many things. There's too many daggone streaming platforms. There's so many shows, and I'm like in this weird mood right now where all I want to do is read, which is super strange. Usually I do make time for TV, but lately I've been like, no, I don't want to watch any TV. I've just been reading and reading romance. I don't know who I am.
That's a good sign. But thank you so much, Jess, for coming on my channel. I will state this again. These are our opinions and our opinions alone. If you disagree or you agree, that is completely up to you. You can let us know down in the comment section down below, or you can DM us privately if you want to chat that way. Whatever way is more comfortable for you. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll link Jess's all her social media links down below, so you can go follow her, go subscribe. Make sure you turn on the notifications for her videos so you're not going to miss another community, because she does work that I don't want to do by going on Twitter. So I just like, let me just watch her video, and then like I can just absorb all the information while doing nothing. I can just sit there and be entertained by you and your dog and be like, the dog needs his own show now. He's like trying to go like, I need my own channel, Jess. I'm
Yeah,
like, this is my scene right now. You're talking about all this Twitter drama, like
I'm his co-host. Nigel's the star. I'm just his mouthpiece.
and Nigel knows that. He's like,
Yes.
okay, we clearly know like, who's the real star of this channel. But thank you so much, Jess, for coming on my channel. Like I said, these are our opinions and our opinions alone. Take with that as you will. We can always feel free to discuss with us anything that was covered in this video. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you guys with a brand new video. Bye.